Hi guys, welcome to Bethelighttarot. I thought that I would do a quick video. It's kind of been on my mind for a while to do a quick video, kind of going over some of the more feared cards of the traditional tarot deck, so to speak. There are a few cards that kind of do scare people. And I believe that that's just from a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding of the true meaning of these cards. So, I do want to start kind of putting out not necessarily tutorials, maybe later on, but more of kind of an explanation of tarot on my channel. So, this will be the first of one of those. And also, I plan on having either a pick a card reading, or I'm thinking about starting to kind of change things up a bit. So, any of you guys that have been watching or are watching, firstly, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much. But if you would just kind of give me some hints, kind of down below, as to what type of readings you guys would like. Okay, let's get started. First card that we have here is the Tower card. The Tower card also is, of course, one of the more feared cards, but it's like at the kind of at the top of the list. And here in the Tower cards, you have kind of this building, and you have this man and this woman here, kind of jumping ship to kind of literally save themselves. So whenever this card pops up in a reading for my clients, I explain this card kind of starting off really using that analogy about jumping ship. The main message of the tarot card is that sometimes things have to completely fall down in order for them to be rebuilt. Sometimes, say if we're talking about in the context of a relationship, the relationship may not have a good foundation. It may be built on ties that are no longer serving either person. But either way, it just represents kind of a complete crumbling, so to speak, in order for things to be rebuilt. Sometimes things have to completely fall apart for us to recognize why there wasn't a strong foundation. Another thing about the Tower card, sometimes the Tower card can pop up as, I don't really want to say warning, but I can't think of another, kind of like a caution. And that caution is usually because we're going down a particular road that if we're not cautious of, we don't pay attention or we don't make necessary changes, there could eventually be a tower moment. If at all possible, we always want to be aware of. Sometimes if we're not aware of what needs to happen, what needs to take place, the universe will grab our attention in a way where we have no other choice but to pay attention. Things will get, I don't necessarily want to say bad, but things will become so apparent that we will not have a choice but to deal with them. So a lot of the times it's better that we can be aware and maybe make changes, or go down a different path or do things differently, so that we don't have to kind of have this wake up call from the universe. And one thing that I want to say before we move here to the Judgment card, with all of these cards, there should be no message of that may seem bad or seem negative without, I don't want to say the polar opposite, but there's nothing, when we're looking at things from a spiritual standpoint, there's nothing that's really bad, because we have to realize that everything is for our good. Everything is always for our highest good, even though it doesn't feel that way, it doesn't seem that way. And I am telling myself that too, daily, maybe hourly, maybe by the minute, if we have to, especially with this crazy, it's like after this Mercury retrograde ended, it's still kind of, we should be pretty much going out of shadow at this point. And it should be pretty much going direct. But I think the energy after retrograde ended and it went into shadow got crazier than the retrograde, at least for me personally. So, that's something that I'm telling myself, daily too. But, the message of the message of the Tower card, again, like with the messages of any of these, and especially the Tower card, now that we're speaking on it, but the message of the Tower card is, sometimes this may come out as a warning, but sometimes this card comes out for my clients after the fact, okay? And it helps give them some sense of peace, because sometimes these Tower moments have to happen. Sometimes, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't, like I said before, they're literally jumping ship to save themselves. Sometimes things have to completely crumble. You completely have to start anew in order to save yourself. So these Tower moments aren't to be feared, although they're very uncomfortable. But these Tower moments specifically sometimes can be avoided, by us kind of heeding and paying attention to the universe's signs and kind of cautions. The next card that we have is the Judgment card. Some people fear the Judgment card, just because of, I think, you instantly think of Revelations and, biblical things of that nature. But the Judgment card is about resurrection. It is about renewing. Sometimes it's about kind of being called forth. But whenever the Judgment card comes up in a reading for my clients, it always makes me feel very good. And it's funny that this is after the Tower card, because sometimes this will come after a Tower moment, or after something that we perceived as bad. But when these kind of judgment moments happen, say for instance, you had a Tower moment, in your relationship, and things completely fell apart and crumbled apart, and everything with this person just kind of gave way. But through that, you found an inner strength. Through that, you were able to grow spiritually and get stronger spiritually. And then it renewed you. It gave you a renewed sense of self. I have some clients who kind of have lost their spark, lost that childlike life, and that thirst for life, after going through various things. And so when the Judgment card comes up, it's a good omen, because it lets me know that they're being resurrected. And a lot of times these moments and periods of us being completely renewed comes after what is perceived as bad a lot of the times. And there's an angel too. I kind of resonate a little more with Archangel Michael when I look at this, but more than likely it would be Archangel Gabriel, because he is the messenger angel. Okay, so there are some archangel ties into this card as well, which is always a good thing. Next, which is not a major. Most of these that I have are major arcana cards. This here is not. This is just part of the swords suit here. But the Ten of Swords, and it looks really ominous when you look at it. But if you really look at this card, this person has completely been impaled. They pretty much have no choice to surrender. And that's really what this card is about. 10 is about completions, okay? It's about coming to the end of a cycle. And this is really about surrender. Sometimes, it's funny how these kind of tie into each other. And I'm going to kind of pull these down here, okay? But sometimes we're faced with this tower moment, okay, or we're faced with a tower moment, and we have no choice but to surrender to it. And a lot of times these excuse me, guys, a lot of times these tower moments come after, or come like at the period of an ending where we're going into a whole new phase. We're renewed. We've had this judgment and this resurrection through this tower moment, okay? But in order to achieve this renewal here, that is an opportunity for everyone after a tower moment, we have to surrender to it. We can't fight it. We have to surrender, and another big key to surrendering is acceptance. So a lot of times when this comes up, those two things will be the theme a lot of the times for my clients, surrendering and accepting what's happened. If we're talking about this tower here, you're accepting what happened in this tower. You're accepting the events. And sometimes these tower moments are very sudden, and they seem sudden and they seem unexpected, but almost all of the time, there were maybe messages we weren't listening to. There's always some type of intervention that we can take to avoid a tower situation. 9 times out of 10, okay, these tower situations come from not anything necessarily that we did wrong per se, but more so a lack of awareness. Okay. Next, we have the infamous death card. Okay. So, death card, of course, people fear. They think literal death. They think, death of even animals. People are very fearful of this death card here. But with this death card, the main theme and message to this death card is the new. With any new beginning, there has to be an ending. The death card 9 times out of 10 is about endings. It's about endings. And as you can see, this sun here in the background has a lot of significance, because again, with any new ending, there's always a new beginning, and any new beginning is always full of light because it's new. You have another chance. You have another opportunity to get it right, or do something different, or go a different way, or try something new. A lot of times, we even pray and we ask for things, but you don't know what, when you're praying and you're asking, you have no clue sometimes how these things come about. You don't know how the universe is going to work. You don't know how your angels are going to work. And on the outside, it may look uncomfortable, but it's always leading to a greater change. Okay, endings always lead to something new. And another thing that we do not deal with well as humans is change. Death is a part of change, which is constant. It's a constant part of life. Okay, so we have to get, for one, we live forever. Energy cannot be destroyed. Okay, only transferred. Okay, so that's number one. We only die in the physical. We do not die in the spiritual ever. So there should be no fear. Although we do, and it's understandable, but there shouldn't be fear there because you're forever. And so, when it comes to endings and it comes to changes, we have to learn to embrace those changes, to accept the new, because, nothing, you can't get new without there being an old. In this 3D existence that we have, it's about contrast. Everything is about contrast. Okay, so this is just another aspect of that. And lastly, we have the Devil card. Okay. Now, this card has a few meanings. It's also the card of Capricorn. Okay, so when you pull it, it doesn't necessarily mean it could mean it could just represent a Capricorn. Okay, but in the event that it does not represent a Capricorn, what the Devil card is about us being attached to things that are no longer serving us, especially in the realm of relationships. And then this devil card, you see the two people are chained, but they're really not, they're only chained by their own free will. At any moment in time, their hands are free, even though you can't see them, and they can break free from this quote unquote bondage that they're under. Okay, so this is like self imposed bondage. This is, would be representative of maybe addictions or lust. This card will also come up in relationships that are very, very lustful. Um, Kind of things that we have attached ourselves to that are self destructive. That's the word I was looking for. Okay. So that's what the devil card is about. And the thing to know, about tarot is that, tarot basically gives a very, very good explanation of life once you really get into it and you learn it. And you start to see the wisdom in the cards, because here on this 3D earth, everything is about contrast, and there are different aspects of life in every tarot card. And even just using these as an example, these just really represent different aspects of life. And once you really get into the tarot, you really can get a greater understanding of life. You can get a greater understanding of how to navigate this thing we call life. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this really brief, I think we're at 16 minutes here. So this really brief kind of, I guess you could say, tutorial on some of the more feared cards in the deck. I'll have another reading out of some sort within the next couple of days here, and I will begin to put out weekly readings and get a little more consistent with that. And then two, if anyone wants or would like a reading by me, that information I believe is below. If I will make sure that it's there. It's also in my about information on my channel on how to get in contact with me. But I will leave a link to my email, and I will leave a link to my business page where you can request readings. Right now, readings are $25 for 20 minutes, and you get them in a format just like this via an unlisted private YouTube video made just for you. So again, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy lives to watch my video. And again, I will be back here within a day or two with another awesome reading. Thank you guys. Namaste.